taken the Hawks just 4 games of the AFL season to do what they didn't do in the first 7 weeks last year, and that's win 2 games, which is extraordinary. And there were some fantastic performances to talk about and a lot of things to go through. However, I refuse to go any further without addressing the elephant in the room, because I like doing these biased Hawthorn review videos. I love doing the Sydney one. A lot of you watch that, which I'm very appreciative of. If you're a Hawks fan who enjoys the biasness, you are not going to like this. But if I want to stay true to the values of this channel, I need to talk about it, even though it favoured the Hawks. Might have been some of the most egregious umpiring I've ever seen. And the rub of the green went our way. If you can accept that, that's coming from a Hawthorn fan if you're not a Hawthorn fan. Or if you're a Hawthorn fan that can go, yep, we got a few we shouldn't have, got a few more than they did. Because, yeah, they did get some that may or may not have been there. But, my God, seriously, it's like complaining that someone found a couple of gold coins in their couch the day that you get an inheritance, right? There's no need to complain about that, for crying out loud. And I thought the last 15 minutes of the second quarter was just going to be as egregious as it gets, and then with about 4.5 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, the Will Day not holding the ball, the Dylan Moore duck, and the Bombers were coming, and it just had a, boy, don't let that turn the game. Now, I will say the Hawks were still the better side, and I want to talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. But I want you to acknowledge that I've acknowledged off the bat, and I'm not going to keep talking about it as we move forward. We got lucky there. So with that being said, let's talk about a 26-point win against an opponent that we've only beaten once in the last 7 times that we'd played them. Shall we? It's super ironic that the 13-point win that Richmond had last night at the time of recording was the biggest winning margin by a team that lost the inside 50 count by 20 and the contested possession mark by 25, because the Hawks had a couple of numbers tonight that just did not favour them at all statistically. So, not that they were the same and they don't fit within that Richmond mould, but there are some aspects of this game where numbers are genuinely useless. Now, I was going to do a long-form video on this, but I think the Hawks epitomise it the most, so doing a Hawthorn review here and then talking about Hawthorn again in my long-form video on Tuesday is probably not going to do anyone any good, so I'll just address it here, because where Essendon went wrong in that third quarter, especially the last 10 to 15 minutes, because when you kick 3 goals, 6 from 24 inside 50s, hard to blame the umpires for that, to be perfectly honest. But, however, in the shape of fairness, you got to punish. The Hawks have got, I reckon, 35 minutes accumulative of shit football in them per game, which is a hell of a lot less than we had in the early part of last year, but it's there. Now, I reckon in this, it was the last 25 minutes of the third quarter, and I reckon it was intermittent 10 minutes of the last quarter. It wasn't all consecutive, but breaking it down would take too long. But it was about 10 minutes of the last quarter combined, and the last 25 minutes of the third quarter was just crap. And that was the time. Now, part of the momentum breaking was what we spoke about before with the officiating, but again, I'm not going to touch on that. What was in the control for the Bombers, and I thought what the Hawks did well, was just enough to force them into enough mistakes. So, defensively, yep, you gave up 85 points. Yep, they kicked, well, what'd they kick? 11-19, I think? Or 12-13, one of those. Credit where credit's due. Hawthorn stood up defensively, especially with the clearance differential as bad as it was in this game, which is not great and something that will need to be addressed, because the Hawks a couple of years ago in the back end of last year, one of the better clearance teams in the competition. I don't buy this, well, we're winning, so it's working. Yes, every win is wonderful and every loss is a lesson, but it's got to get fixed. No Warple there is a bit of a problem, to be completely honest. And Cam Mackenzie, look, there are times where he drives me nuts, but he got better in this game. I know that he had over 20 disposals in this game, but Josh Ward is not, and I don't really know what he can do in order to change my mind. I really don't. And I've met Wardy. He is a very good bloke. That is not what I'm implying. He ain't it. So, I'm a believer that Henry Huswaite should play next week with Warple still out. I know you may not want to mess with cohesion or anything like that if you don't want to, but I don't know. I just don't think he's it. Yeah, he had a couple of elite moments. I know that. So did Mackenzie. It's not enough. It's just not. And look, tonight was kind of the battle of the not great top 10 draft picks, to be completely honest, because you've got Sardis, you've got Hobbs, you've got Cox, who didn't play, but still, Archie Perkins, he had a good second half. Fine. Zach Reid, though, wasn't his quickest, but I think will be a genuine part of Essendon's team moving forward. And for the Hawks, Tom Barras was awesome. He looks so slow. Like, there is a laconicness to his game, which was evident at West Coast, and he's only going to get more evident the more, probably stronger you pay attention to him. And this is coming from someone that did watch him strongly last year. Josh Battle was really good as well, like, did his job. The best thing about it is, because he's a free agent, you're kind of worried, well, what do you expect with what you pay him? And I think the answer to that is, are you noticing him making egregious errors? The answer is no. Are you noticing his opponent bury him on the scoreboard? The answer is no. I would happily pay 800 grand of company money for someone to deliver those kind of results in that role. I'll say that. A couple of boys who were really quiet. Now, Josh Weddle stood up, took that contested mark, kicked the goal. That was a big breaker in that last quarter. Credit to him for that. Basically did not a lot else on the stat sheet, but I thought defensively he worked really hard and won some key one-on-ones, so don't trust the score sheet, or the stat sheet, I should say, in that way. Overall, didn't really notice Massimo D'Ambrosio for the second and third quarters, to be honest, or the first and third maybe. He had two really quiet quarters in this game, so... But let's talk about the boys that we loved, because it's a 26-point win, and I actually feel like I've complained a lot in this video, which isn't great. Connor McDonald, let's start with Croc. Bounced back last week, had 8 disposals last week, and very little influence outside of the Ollie Florent interception, if you want to call it, or to him in the corridor. Genuinely elite, and of course he combined with Nick Watson, the wizard, who now, and I put this on Twitter, so the tweet will probably be here somewhere, that he is second behind Stephen Milne now for scoring shots in his first 20 games when you compare the other elite small forwards of this era. Like, it's ridiculous that this guy gets over-criticised. And, yeah, he plays for 2 high free kicks. He does. I mean, so did others. And, yeah, they got criticised. I'm not saying never criticise him, he's perfect. That's not what I'm saying. But at some point, you just have to acknowledge that he's a very good player. Does he have to get it out of his game? Well, that could come naturally because he's just not getting them. I find it really weird that Dylan Moore and Will Day are getting them. I will happily put my hand up and go, I don't understand why a similar shrugging arm action is deemed high on a guy 4 centimeters and seemingly 4 foot taller than the Wizard is, but he doesn't. Now, if you're in the camp of you either pay all of them or none of them, I'm definitely in the none of them camp, and mainly because of the ones that you go, well, that was probably there. It's getting outweighed 2-1. So, it is what it is. But the Wizard took his chances. Jizzy's set shot goal kicking looked really good. He looked dangerous all night, flew for everything. He needs to stop flying for contested marks, in my opinion, if there is a pack around him. You are a small player, Wizard. Come on. Couple of times where you could have easily got out the back. Like, he could have kicked 6. But I won't complain with what he put together. 13 disposals, 3 goals. We will take that. And then my man Dylan Moore, my goodness, what a response after 2 not great finals, to be honest, and a pretty, I don't want to say poor, but quieter round 0 show. 1 disposals and 3 goals. There are not many that can have 20 and kick 2. It's one of the awesome metrics that I look for in footy. He's averaged that for a season. Last year was over a goal a game, but 19.3 disposals, I think it was. 1 and 3. My gracious me. He's still not in the 20 and 1 camp just yet, but very well done. His gut running is just outstanding, is Dill. And I loved him when he was in number 36. I've not jumped on the bandwagon there just yet. I want to give Lloyd Meek some credit. He was beaten by Sam Draper. Like, really was. The Hawks outscored them at clearance, which is nuts. And honestly, where the Hawks are going to try and win the flag or become a contender or whatever you think the ceiling for this football club is going to be on turnover and generating scores by locking the ball in their forward half. Like, yeah, the Hawks did get a lot of scores from their defensive half last week, 51 points I think it was, but that's the way that it's going to work. The Hawks scored 51 points against Sydney from the forward half and 48 from turnover. And those numbers, I think, on turnover are going to be relatively the same. And scoring from centre clearance is going to be better than it was last week because that's just the nature of the beast. But the Hawks' ability to punish other teams on turnover is going to be elite. The kicking out, set, play, whatever you want to call it, from a point, awesome. The Sicily to Impey one was just borderline arousing, to be honest. Don't sue me for sexual harassment. But my God, that was awesome. Connor Nash, just quietly, in terms of consistent, Carl Amon, I think right now is winning Hawthorn's best and fairest. There's 2 games in, Daz. I know. Relax, right? I'm not taking it that seriously. You shouldn't either. But Connor Nash right now would be second. The Irishman, 100th game as well. Don't think I've been more wrong on a Hawthorn player. I was fully ready for us to get him on a plane and get him back to Ireland. Sam Mitchell saw something in him that I just didn't at VFL level as a midfielder. And yes, he is never going to be a top whatever midfielder in the competition. But my God, the structure, the role that he plays, top shelf. Connor, well done to you. Bloody well done to you. Fingers crossed that Scrim is okay. I still think that Jack Ginnivan's impact is going wildly underrated by nearly everyone. Like, I had Hawks fans on my Twitter last week that goes, I think Guinea's under pressure. And I'm like, so you just didn't watch him closely enough last week. Like, he had 16 touches and didn't fumble. And he was very good. Joy Newcomb, I'm pretty confident at this point, needs to just have his left foot for balance. I think he had 4 turnovers and 7 clangers. I don't really understand the difference between those two, but that's all right. I'm pretty sure all 4 turnovers and 4 of his 7 clangers were on his left foot. So just for balance, the Prince from Poowong, the Duke, and we love the Duke, boy, except for the mustache, but others like it. Can't say I'm a massive fan, but what the hell do I know? God made me look like this, and I'm not even religious. So overall, before I start talking about every single player, what's really encouraging here is that the Hawks are not the finished product, like at all. On field, structurally, and output-wise, Sam Frost is not a sub. Makes me very nervous. Does Frosty? He's a 4-quarter operator. That's what we need him to be. Harry Morrison was fine, and a few more players just didn't really come into the game. But what was really important and impactful is that when a moment or two was required, players stepped up. The Hawks needed some contested marking. Josh Weddle, who'd done borderline nothing. Finn McGuinness, who hadn't had a big impact. Both took contested marks in that final quarter and kicked goals. So it's really cool that the Hawks have still got a really good depth of improvement to come. Cole Shadir, Mitch Lewis, these guys to come back in. Gunston, if we're going to play him. Bruce, if we're going to play him. It's going to be hard for Bruce and Gunston to get a spot in this side, to be perfectly honest. If Gunners was to come in, it's probably for a McGuinness, but he's probably doing enough to stay in the side, to be honest. So knowing that this is not the peak is super exciting, and I can't wait for Carlton on Thursday night. The Hawks are going to be in 3 of the first 12 games of the season, which is kind of batshit when you think about it, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. So, the Hawks with a point differential now of 46 after 2 games, on top of the ladder, and 2-0 before other teams have even played a game. This season is already weird and umpired horrendously. What did you think? Comment below, let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Days Talks Footy family. Thank you so much for watching my Richmond versus Carlton review. That genuinely blew up. That means a lot. And fingers crossed you guys can get around the other reviews. I'm not 100% sure how my Saturday and Sunday review videos are going to work, because it's just going to be genuinely impossible with life that all 4 games or 3 games, depending on how many are on a particular weekend, Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to be able to watch and review properly. I'm thinking that I'm going to be able to dissect fully one and then talk about the other 2 from a results-based point of view, or try to catch as much as I can there, but this is all part of the opening to the season. So the umpires aren't going great, the Hawks are, Carlton are not, and hopefully you are. So I appreciate you watching. Stick around if you enjoy it. Long form video coming on Tuesday, more game reviews coming. Look after yourselves, you absolute legends. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next video.